kind of nervous. Haven't done this in forever. Hey guys, it is Zach from Zach's Y Reviews, and I have not done a video in forever. I guess kind of spur of the moment. Well, I want to say spur of the moment, but I've planned to do this book haul for at least a week, if not two now. So, yeah, it's just things got in the way. Books got in the way. There's actually more books in this book haul than I had anticipated, but I'm going to just show these books, and it's not any month-specific book haul. I might start doing that again at the end of April, beginning of May type of thing, but since I haven't done a book haul in over, I think, 2, maybe 3 years, I'm just going to show some of the books that I got in the past couple of months, some highlights, and some books from publishers and authors that, you know, decided that they wanted to send me books. I also have some books that I bought here as well, so yeah, let's get into it before I continue rambling. The first book I have here is 4 Weeks, 5 People by Jennifer Yu. This is about a wellness camp, and I'm just going to read the backs of some of these books that I don't know that much about because I'm going to ramble and I hate rambling. They're more than their problems. Obsessive-compulsive teen Clarissa wants to get better, if only so her mother will stop asking her if she's okay. Andrew wants to overcome his eating disorder so he can get back to his band and their dreams of becoming famous. Film aficionado Ben would rather live in the movies than in reality. Gorgeous and overly confident Mason thinks everyone is an idiot, and Stella just doesn't want to be back for her second summer of wilderness therapy. As the 5 teens get to know one another and work to overcome the various disorders that have affected their lives, they find themselves forming bonds they never thought they would, discovering new truths about themselves and actually looking forward to the future. This book sounds pretty cool. I'm actually really excited about it. It's definitely more of a, kind of a general novel with, a prose writing style, but there are kind of supplemental materials like the schedule for the camp and a bit from the brochure. And I know Ben's chapter is the one that's a film aficionado who would rather live in the movies than in reality. His chapters are told like a screenplay, so this sounds like it's going to be so interesting, both narratively and how it's written. So this comes out May 2nd, so look for it on shelves, and I will hopefully be getting a review out here sometime this month. So look forward to that. And then I have All Things New by Lauren Miller. I don't know when this comes out because I think they just sent me like what's going to be the finished book and then added a uncorrected proof sticker on it. So it doesn't say like a general month, year type of thing. So don't know when this is going to come out. I'll leave a Goodreads link down below if you want to check it out and see when this comes out. But yeah, so without further ado, before I start rambling, 17-year-old Jessa Gray has always felt broken inside, but she's gotten good at hiding it. No one at school knows about the panic attacks, the therapy that doesn't help, and the meds that haven't worked. But when an accident leaves her with a brain injury and terrible scars, Jessa's efforts to convince the world she's okay crumble. Now she's broken on the outside too. Fleeing from her old life in Los Angeles, she moves to Colorado to live with her dad. But things go from bad to worse when Jessa realizes she's hallucinating bruises and scars on the people around her. She blames it on the accident, but as she gets better and the hallucinations continue, she begins to wonder if what she's seeing could actually be real. While searching for answers, she falls for Marshall, a boy whose kindness and levity slowly draws Jessa out of her walled-off shell and into the broken, beautiful, real world, a place where souls get hurt just as badly as bodies, and we need each other to heal. All Things New is a love story about perception and truth, physical and emotional pain, and the messy, complicated people we are behind the masks we put on for the world. It sounds really heavy and intense, which isn't really my type of book. There are definitely books that are heavy and intense that I have read and do want to read. Like The Hate You Give is a great example of a really like heavy, it's going to make me feel uncomfortable type of book. But this just, I don't know. I don't know when I'll get around to it. If I'll get around to it, I'm going to try to get around to it. But, and also I don't know if there's like an element of magical realism, because it talks about how the hallucinations might be real or something. And I don't know. That part does intrigue me, so I may get around to it at some point. But definitely not this month. Maybe next month. So, I don't know. Goodreads link will be down below though, so if you want to check it out, see what other people have said about it, feel free. The next book I have is Shadowcaster by Cinda Chima. I debated whether or not to put this in, because I think I did get this sometime late last year. But the book, the finished copy, did recently come out with a new cover that I am not a huge fan of. I mean, I liked what they were going for with differentiating her covers a bit more, but I just bought like all of her books in hardcover, and so luckily I believe the spines match, or at least they're close enough that I'm not going to freak out, but I'm just, I was like, I bought them all in hardcover, and now I might not be able to have them all in hardcover, but it looks like I might be able to, so I'm not freaking out. Anyway, this is the second book in the Shattered Realms series by Cinda Chima, which is a spin-off of her Seven Realms series. You don't need to read her Air Chronicles books just to get into the Shattered Realms series. You just need to read the Seven Realms books. It's high fantasy. It's amazing. There's a lot of political intrigue, and the characters are just so well defined and brought out, and the world building is just fantastic. It's one of my favorite fantasy series that I've ever read. Granted, I haven't read some of the bigger ones like, you know, A Game of Thrones or, yeah, so don't know if it'll last when I finally get around to that book or that series, but for now, it's definitely one of my favorite fantasies. Next, from Disney Hyperion, they sent me Momotaros Anger and the Dream Thief, which is the second book in the Momotaro series. I don't know much about this series. I haven't read the first book yet. I am reading both the first book and this book sometime this month. Pretty soon, actually, but I don't know much about it other than it's middle grade, and there's a lot of Japanese folklore tied to it. I don't want to read the back of this, obviously, because it hopefully won't, but it probably will spoil the first book in the series for me, so I will leave Goodreads links down below for both the first book and this one as well, if you want to check them out. Hopefully I'll have a review up soon, so you can see what I think about this series, but yeah, middle grade, Japanese folklore elements to it, it sounds awesome. And the final book that I received for review is The Intuitives by Erin Michelle Skye and Stephen Brown. I'm going to read the back of this one because I keep forgetting specifically what it's about, but I do know more or less. Let's see, rambling. Imagination just became our greatest weapon. In Egypt, an archaeological team discovers the lost tomb of Alexander the Great. 7 years later, every public school student in America takes a strange new test. But only 6 are chosen to attend a summer program at the mysterious Institute for the Cultivation of Intuitive Cognition. Oh my god, try saying that 5 times fast. Where nothing is as simple as it appears to be, including the students themselves. But why is the US government so interested in 6 teenagers, and what exactly is it teaching them to do? When helicopters start crashing and a plane goes missing over the Atlantic, they must band together to uncover the true purpose behind the Institute and the ancient secrets that lie hidden beneath the surface, before history catches up with them. This sounds really good. It's not going to be out until July 25th, so I'm going to try to get around to reading it this month, but if not, I'll be reading it next month. And it's, I believe, the first book in a series. It sounds really cool. I love the simplicity of the cover. I'm actually pretty excited for this book. It sounds interesting. It sounds kind of like the Naturals series by Jennifer Lynn Barnes. mixed with some like actual magical mythological elements to it too, so I'm actually pretty excited for that. Now on to the books that I actually bought. I have A Court of Thorns and Roses and A Court of Mist and Fury by Sarah J. Maas. These are the first 2 books in the A Court of Thorns and Roses trilogy, which I believe actually there's going to be 3 more books, but they're prequels, so I don't know. The story started in this book will be finished in A Court of Wings and Ruin when that comes out. I'm currently reading A Court of Thorns and Roses, bit by bit, to kind of prepare and amp up for A Court of Wings and Ruin. I haven't read it before, and I'm really liking it so far. I'm about 45% of the way through. I've heard nothing but amazing things about the second book. It's Beauty and the Beast with fairies, and yeah, that's pretty much as I know at this point. It's really good though. I'm actually really enjoying it, and I can't wait to finish these books so that I can get to A Court of Wings and Ruin when that comes out, and I can be caught up with like everybody I know that's read these books. Next I have The Shadow Queen and The Wish Granter by C.J. Redwine. These are the first 2 books in her Ravenspire series, which are fantasy standalones that are inspired by classic fairy tales. This first one is inspired by Snow White. The second one is inspired by Rumpelstiltskin, and these are so good. The world building is fantastic, which it kind of needs to be since the world itself is almost like the main character of this series, and traveling to different kingdoms and seeing how they're dealing with the crap going on in their kingdoms. The first book I gave, I think, 4.5 stars because there is a bit of an info dump when it comes to the magic system at the beginning, but everything after that is amazing, and everything in this is just unbelievably amazing. I will leave my reviews for both these books down below, along with the Goodreads links, so you can check those out. But yeah, these books are amazing, and I'm so happy to finally have them in my collection. Next is a major cover buy for me because, like, after buying it, I realized I hadn't actually read the description, and the description sounds a bit cliche, but I'll still read it anyway, and that is Crown of Three by J.D. Rinehart, I believe. Yes, J.D. Rinehart. And this is about, it's a middle grade book about a kingdom with an evil king, and there's a prophecy that 3 triplets will overthrow him and rule peacefully, and it sounds kind of cliche, but the cover is amazing. The cover is amazing. And I mean, I'm looking forward to it, but not as much as I was before I actually read the description for it. So, but yeah, look at that cover. Look at that cover. Look. Next, I have Rebel Genius by Michael Dante DiMartino. This takes place in a fantasy world that's based off of Renaissance Italy, where being an artist is a crime, and there's a young boy named Giacomo who is an artist, and every artist has a genius. Fortunately, Giacomo's not alone. He's led to a secret studio where young artists and their geniuses study sacred geometry. Great, there's math involved. Okay. There, Giacomo learns to turn his artistic powers into force fields, deadly weapons, and more with just a flick of a paintbrush. It's the first time he's felt safe. But his life is at risk when a murderous artist returns to hunt down the sacred tools, objects that have the power to destroy the Empire. And only Giacomo and his friends can stop him. This is by one of the co-creators of the Avatar: The Last Airbender series, and I am looking forward to this so much. I haven't gotten around to it yet, but I'm trying to find a place to fit it into my schedule because it sounds so good. It sounds so good. And I mean, again, it's another one that's just like, look at that cover. I hope you can see that cover. Look at that cover. And finally, we reach the end. Finally, I have Queen of Hearts and Blood of Wonderland by Colleen Oakes. These are the first 2 books in the Queen of Hearts trilogy, which is about the Queen of Hearts before she actually becomes the Queen of Hearts and becomes evil, and it's her story of how she becomes evil. Sounds kind of familiar, but Trust me, these books are not like Heartless at all. I actually have reviews of these first two books when they were originally published by Sparks Press. So I do know that there's minor changes or maybe even major changes when it comes to the second book. So I'm going to actually reread these books and re-review these books, but to see my impressions on the Sparks Press versions, I will leave those reviews down below. This is very different from Heartless, so don't look at it kind of as a Heartless ripoff, because it's different. It takes much more of a fantasy aspect than a retelling aspect, if you want to put it that way. But yeah, still really, really good series, and I love these new covers. I cannot wait for War of the Cards, which is the third book. So excited. Anyway, that is my little return to Booktube book haul. I'm hoping to do some book talk, spoilery discussion videos about actually some of the books that you saw here. I'm going to try and do tag videos again. I'm going to just try to do something, anything consistent with this channel. So I hope you'll, give it a thumbs up, hit that subscribe to hopefully continue watching me.